Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Today we'll be continuing the endocrine system. Okay. Okay. A slide is visible or not?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so in the last class we talked about the endocrine system. Okay, endocrine system, you already know it consists of endocrine glands, and endocrine glands, they are producing hormones. Okay, and hormones, you know that they are very important in controlling what we say metabolism. Okay, inside our body. Okay, so today we'll see what are the true classes of endocrine under this endocrine system. Okay, it may be classified into two types. Okay, number one is neuroendocrine or neurosecretory system. Okay, actually we cannot exclude the nervous system also when we talk about the endocrine system. Okay, so some neurons, they are very important in producing hormones. Although these neurons, they are not endocrine cells, okay, but still we cannot exclude them from the endocrine system. Okay, so number one under endocrine system is neuroendocrine or neurosecretory system. Okay, so as I told you, in this type of system, okay, instead of endocrine cells, neurons, or we can say neural tissues, okay, they are synthesizing the hormones, okay, or they, after synthesis also, it will be stored in the neuron, okay, and they will be released by the neurons. And you already know these are known as the neuro hormones. Okay, in the last class also, I told you about this one. Okay, neuro hormones, they are the hormones produced by the neurons or the nervous system. Okay, not by the endocrine system, classical endocrine system. Not by the classical endocrine system, but they are synthesized, stored, and released by the neurons. Okay, so in reality, this is the neurotransmitter of the neuron concern. Okay, we can say that these are the neurotransmitter, not the neurohormones. But why we call these substances as hormones? The reason being, you can see this one. Okay, so this point is very important. Okay, this neurohormone, instead of being released into a synapse, is released into a general circulation. Okay, where it travels to its target organ. Okay, now this point is very important. You know that whenever there is release of neurotransmitter, okay, let's say we have truths here, synapses here. Okay, let's say this is a synapse. Okay, this is the first neuron, this is the second neuron. Okay, so from here a neurotransmitter is released. Okay, it means that it will have effect on the second neuron. Okay, postsynaptic nerve fiber, here it will have the what to say, action. So that is why we call these released substances as neurotransmitter. But regarding neurohormone, okay, let's say this is a neuron. Okay, but here another cell is there, target cell. Okay, so suppose these neurohormones, they are released. Okay, before, after they are released, you have to remember that they are released into the circulation. That means into the blood vessels. Okay, instead of being released in the synapse, okay, they are released into the blood vessels or general circulation, so that this will be carried to the target tissue. Okay, that is why these substances, they are known as neurohormone, not as a neurotransmitter. Because hormone definition, you already know, they are substances, chemical substances released into circulation, and they are transported by this cardiovascular system to their target organ. That is why we call this substances as the hormones. Since they are really synthesized by neuron, we call them as neurohormone. Okay, is it clear or not this one? Okay, why we call these substances as neurohormones is that although they are synthesized by the neurons, but the substances released is secreted into the bloodstream, not into the synapse. Okay, suppose if they are released into the synapse, we can call them as neurotransmitter. Okay, but since they are released into the bloodstream instead of into the synapse, we call them as hormones. Since they are released from the neurons, we call them as the neurohormones. Neurohormones. Okay. So the neuroendocrine system is found in all invertebrates and vertebrates. Okay. Neuroendocrine system, this type of system, it will be observed or it can be found in invertebrate as well as vertebrates. Okay. So what are the examples of this neuroendocrine system? Okay, we are having two examples. Number one, posterior pituitary hormones. Okay, last class also we talked a little bit about this one. Okay, example of neuroendocrine system. The first one is hormones of pituitary gland. You already know what are there. There are two, antidiuretic hormone, and number two is oxytocin. Okay, let's see first the second diagram. Okay, so you know that ADH and oxytocin, okay, they are synthesized in the, here you know, paraventricular nuclei as well as the supraoptic nuclei in the hypothalamus. Okay, so after being synthesized, they are now released through their axons. Okay, now it is moving towards the posterior pituitary gland. Okay, so this posterior pituitary gland is mainly composed of this axonal terminus, okay, which is coming from the hypothalamus. Okay, now here ADH and oxytocin, they are synthesized in the supraoptic nucleus and paraventricular nucleus. After they are synthesized, then it moves through these axons to the posterior pituitary gland. And here they are stored in the posterior pituitary gland. So you have to remember that this posterior pituitary gland is not an endocrine cell also. Okay, they do not have any endocrine function, but these cells are mainly the nerve endings of this, the nerve which is coming from the hypothalamus. Okay, now they are stored here. Okay, so this is the classical example of neuroendocrine system. So when they are needed for in the body, okay, for example, dehydration is that we have already discussed. ADH is required. Okay, when that requirement arises, okay, this ADH will be released into this bloodstream. Okay, here blood is there. So that even oxytocin also, okay, when it is needed, it will be secreted into the circulation and they can be carried through different parts of the body. Okay, so this is the classical example of the neuroendocrine system. And we have the second example. Okay, so second example is apart from that ADH and oxytocin. Okay, the hypothalamus is also synthesizing these hormones or factors. Okay, here you can see this part and this part. Okay, so here you see six factors or hormones, hypothalamic hormones are there. Okay, so GHRH means growth hormone, releasing hormone. All these things we'll be discussing one by one afterwards. Okay, growth hormone, releasing hormone, and thyrotropin releasing hormone. Okay, growth hormone releasing hormone. Okay. They cannot join again. What to do? Okay. So should I repeat the previous slides? from the beginning. Okay, we have lots of time. Okay, I'll just repeat from the beginning. Okay. So in endocrine system, okay, there are two types, or we can say we can classify endocrine system into two. But the first one is not that, what we are going to discuss in detail. The second one is more important. Okay, so the first one is neuroendocrine or neurosecretory system. Okay, so in this system, the neurons, they are synthesizing the hormones. Okay, but in the previous class, I told you that hormones, they are synthesized by the endocrine glands. Okay, but here there are some exceptions. Okay, we have to remember that. But this is also linked with the endocrine system. Okay, so in this system, neurons, instead of endocrine cells, neurons are synthesizing the hormones. Okay, and they are known as neurohormones since they are synthesized from the neuron. Okay, so in reality, this is the neurotransmitter of the neuron concern. Okay, usually we call them as neurotransmitter, but here, why they are not neurotransmitter here? Neurons, why do we call hormones? Because these are not released into the synapse. Instead, they are secreted into the general circulation. So you already know that the definition of hormone. Hormone, it is released into the blood circulation. Okay, that is why we call them as neurohormones or hormones. Okay, so example I've given you, pituitary hormones. Here you can see from the paraventricular nucleus and supraoptic nucleus, this ADH and oxytocin, they are released, and they are then released through the axons, and then they are stored in the pituitary gland. Okay, so when they are needed, okay, they will be released into the bloodstream. Okay, oxytocin and vasopressin. Okay, so the second example is that the hypothalamus, apart from oxytocin and ADH. Okay, hypothalamus is also producing, here you see, 6 factors or hormones. Okay, number 1 is GHRH, here, growth hormone releasing hormone, and number 2, GnRH, gonadotropin releasing hormone, number 3, corticotropin releasing hormone, 4, thyroid releasing hormone, dopamine, and somatostatin. Okay, so actually these hypothalamic hormones, okay, you have to remember this one. These hypothalamic hormones, sometimes they are known as hypothalamic factors instead of hormones. Okay, that you have to remember it. So these hypothalamic hormones, the second example I have given you, they are very important. Okay, or we can say they are controlling the hormones of the anterior pituitary gland. Okay, all these things will be discussed in detail. Okay, so these are the two classical examples of neuroendocrine system. Okay, because there is a relationship between the neurons and the endocrine system. That means neurons are synthesizing the hormones. Okay, which are released into the bloodstream, not into the synapse. That is why we call them as neurohormone. Okay. Now the second type of endocrine system. Okay, so this is the classical endocrine system. Here, there is no, we can say that the neurons, they are not producing any hormone. Okay. In this example, under this endocrine system, classical endocrine system, only endocrine glands are producing the hormones. Okay. Now let's say in this case, hormones are released from specialized non-neural tissue. That means endocrine cells. Non-neural tissue means they are not from the nervous system. Okay, but endocrine cells. Okay, and you know that they are directly, after synthesis, they are directly secreted into the bloodstream, or first into the body fluids and then into the bloodstream. Okay, so this is the classical endocrine system. Okay, so because of the absence of ducts to transport the hormone from the gland to the circulating body fluids, it is also known as a ductless gland. Okay, in the last class we have already talked about why endocrine glands, they are also known as ductless glands. Okay, you You know this one. There is no duct system, unlike exocrine gland. Okay, that I'll not repeat it. Now, classical endocrine glands are only found in the higher invertebrates and the vertebrates. Okay, this suggests that the appearance of this system occurred after the development of neuroendocrine system. Okay, so this point is important. Earlier, neuroendocrine system, the first system, okay, it is found in all invertebrates as well as vertebrates. But these classical endocrine glands, the second type of gland, okay, they are found in higher invertebrate only and vertebrate only, not in lower invertebrate. Okay, so according to evolution theory, they said that this suggests that the appearance of this system, that means classical endocrine system, occurred after the development of the neuroendocrine system. That means neuroendocrine system, it was developed earlier than that of the classical endocrine system. Okay, now the last point is also very important. It may be more appropriate not to consider the true control system of neural and endocrine control as being so clearly distinct from each other. Okay, this point is important. In the last class also, I told you that the nervous system and the endocrine system, okay, they complement or they are integrated to perform the overall function of the body. Okay, so sometimes it is difficult to clearly distinguish them as separate, or to say system. Okay, sometimes it may be necessary not to clearly divide them. Okay, now the next, is it clear or not?
Yes, sir.
Neuroendocrine system and classical endocrine system, the difference you already know. I think, is it clear? Any question?
Sir?
You don't have any question? You have any
Sir,
question?
could you please repeat the previous slide, sir?
This one?
Yes, sir. Sir, the second and the last point, sir.
This one, second and last point?
Yes, sir.
This one, this slide. Okay, so according to evolution theory, okay, it is said that the neuroendocrine system, okay, the first system we have discussed, is appearing first. That means development is earlier. Since we can observe the neuroendocrine system in all invertebrates and vertebrates, but the classical endocrine system is observed only in higher invertebrates and vertebrates. Okay, this suggests that classical endocrine system is developing later than that of the neuroendocrine system. Okay, because it is not found in all the animals. Okay, but neuroendocrine system is found in all animals. So according to that theory, okay, evolution theory, we can say that this neuroendocrine system developed earlier than that of the classical endocrine system. Okay, and the second point is that I told you that now also the relationship between nervous system and endocrine system you already know. Okay, because neurons, they are also synthesizing hormones. Okay, but you know that when we talk about endocrine system, it is related to hormones only. But when we talk about nervous system, okay, there are so many other functions, not only that neuroendocrine function. Okay, but we cannot, what to say that when we talk about the endocrine system, we cannot exclude nervous system also, because there is involvement of the nervous system. Just now we have already talked about it. They are producing all these ADH, oxytocin, all those factors, hypothalamic factors, TRH, GHRH, GnRH, all those things we have discussed. Okay, so they are all produced by the nervous system only. Okay. Now next is coordination of body functions by chemical messengers. Okay, so we have to see some terms. Okay, so the multiple activities of the cells. Okay, multiple activities of the cells. Cells are cells, tissues, and organs. They are performing so many functions. Okay, All those are coordinated by interplay of several types of communication system. Okay, so interplay of several types of communication system. Okay, multiple activities of the cells, tissues, or organs are possible. Yeah, any question? Okay, I'll repeat. The multiple activities of the cells, tissues, and organs of the body are coordinated by the interplay of several types of communication system. Okay, multiple activities of cells are there. In a cell, there are so many functions, okay, performed by a cell, even the tissue or organ. Okay, all those has to be coordinated. Okay, they have to be working together. So this is possible by the interplay of several types of communication system. Okay, several types of communication system, including number one, neurotransmitter. Okay, this one also, I think the last class we talked about a little bit. Okay, about this one also. What are neurotransmitter? They are released by the axonal terminals, you know very well, of neuron into the synaptic junctions. Okay, from one neuron into the synaptic junction, and it will have effect on the next neuron or muscle fiber. Okay, neurotransmitter, they are synthesized in the neuron and secreted through the axonal terminal into synaptic junction and act locally to control nerve cell function. Okay. You already know what are these neurotransmitters. The important ones are acetylcholine, epinephrine, norepinephrine, dopamine, etc. Okay. So the second one is neuroendocrine hormones or neuro hormones. Okay. This one also we have just discussed it. Okay. They are secreted by the neurons into the circulating blood. Okay. I already told you that why we call these are neuroendocrine hormones, because they are not released into the synapse. Instead, they are secreted into the circulating blood. That is why they are hormones. Okay, and influence the function of cells at another location in the body. Examples I've already given you: ADH, oxytocin, GnRH, GHRH, TRH, CRH. All those things I've given you. Okay, in the previous slides. Okay. So endocrine hormones. Okay, are released by glands of specialized cells into the circulating blood. Okay, endocrine hormones, they are produced by the endocrine cells into the circulation and influence the function of cells at another location in the body. Okay, growth hormone, thyroxine, etc. So many hormones are there. Okay, did you get my point or not? What is neurotransmitter? What is neurohormones? And what are the endocrine hormones or hormones? Any question? No question. Okay. Now the next point. Okay. It is paracrines. Okay. Paracrines are secreted by cells into the extracellular fluid and affect neighboring cells or adjacent cells of different types. Okay, example, neurotransmitter causing muscle contraction. Okay, now don't get confused. Okay, so this point is very important. When we talk about paracrine, okay, when we talk about the paracrines, we are not interested in what type of substances they are. We are interested in their action, how they act. Okay, paracrines means it may be a neurotransmitter or some other molecules. It may be cytokine also. Okay, but we are interested in how they act. Okay, we are interested in how they act. That means any substances which is released by a cell and that substance is having effect on the neighboring cells. We can call these are paracrine cells, or the substance release is paracrine. Okay, for example, neurotransmitter, for example, acetylcholine causing muscle contraction. Okay, so this is very clear. For example, this is a nerve ending. Okay, acetylcholine is released. Okay, acetylcholine, they are released. And you already know that in skeletal muscle, what it does is that this acetylcholine, they will bind through their receptors on the muscle membrane. And you know that this will open acetylcholine gated channels. Sodium will enter into the muscle cell. And depolarization or action potential will take place. Okay, and it will cause muscle contraction, you already know. Okay, so what happens is that now this cell is acting as, or we can say, this neurotransmitter is a paracrine. Or we can say the axon is paracrine axon, because this is acting on, this neuron is affecting its neighboring cell. Here, next to it, okay, it is neighboring cell, it is affecting the neighboring cell, that is the muscle fiber. That is why we can call this axon as the axon of neurotransmitter acetylcholine as paracrine axon, because it affects the neighboring cell. Is it clear or not? Paracrine axon. Okay, now autocrine. Okay, okay, paracrine here, it is very clear. Okay, this diagram you just see, secretory cell is there. Okay, it is secreting something, some molecules, and it binds to its adjacent target cell. Okay, now it has influence on this, the adjacent cell. Okay, so example is just I have given you here acetylcholine causing muscle contraction that we have already discussed in muscular system. Okay, now the next one is autocrine. Auto means self. Okay. Autocrines are secreted by cells into the extracellular fluid and affect functions of the same cells that produced them by binding to cell surface receptors. Okay, so the last diagram you see. Okay, so this cell is secreting a substance, molecule. Okay, and this substance will act on the same cell from where it is secreted. So here there are some receptors for these molecules. Okay, now they are binding here, so self influence is there. Okay, paracrine, the difference is that it is affecting the neighboring cell, but in case of autocrine action, the molecules will have influence on the same cell. Okay, example is cytokine interleukin 1 in monocyte binds to its own cell membrane receptor. Okay, so the first one diagram also you see endocrine signal you already know. Okay, they are released into the bloodstream here. Okay, and then influencing the what to say, the target cells here. Okay, okay, any question? Difference between paracrine and autocrine action? Is there any question? No. Okay, then we'll move to cytokines. Okay, so please don't get confused now, because it is what is neuroendocrine hormone, endocrine hormone, neurotransmitter, paracrine, autocrine, all these things. Okay, now here another term comes here, cytokine. Okay, cytokines are peptides. That means they are protein in nature, we can say. Cytokines are peptides secreted by cells into the extracellular fluid, and they can function either as autocrines, paracrines, and endocrine hormones. Okay, so cytokines. Okay, it is a broad term. It is a broad term now. Okay, they may be autocrines also, maybe paracrines, or even the hormones. Okay. Cytokines are a category of signaling molecules that mediate and regulate immunity, inflammation, and hematopoiesis. Okay, you have to remember cytokines, they are peptides. They may be autocrines or maybe paracrines or even the hormones. Okay, here we can see a particular cytokine may exhibit. Okay, a particular cytokine may exhibit. Okay, a single cytokine may also act as maybe autocrine, it may act as autocrine, or may act as paracrine, or may act as a hormone also. Okay, so cytokines, they are quite different. Means Even a single particular cytokine may exhibit many functions. Okay, but this we will not discuss in detail. We are interested only in the endocrine system or the hormones. Okay, but all these terms you have to remember. Okay. Now, general characteristics of hormones. Okay. General characteristic of hormones. Okay, just let me see. Okay, slide is visible or not? Hello? Slide is visible or not? Visible. Okay. Now, general characteristics of hormones. So please listen carefully. It is very important. Okay. Point number 1. Hormones do not initiate the biological processes. They simply increase or decrease processes. Okay. This point is very important. A hormone will not initiate biological reaction, but it helps in increasing the process or decreasing the process. Okay, so without the help of hormones, some chemical reaction, it may be too slow to sustain life. That is why hormone is important. Okay, and sometimes when the biological reaction is too fast, there should be a break also. Okay, so hormone may act as a brake to decrease the biological process so that normal biological reaction will take place. Okay, hormones, they do not initiate biological process, they simply increase or decrease the processes. Okay, point number 2, with the notable exceptions of steroids, most hormones are stored often in large quantities in their glands of origin. Okay, so in the next slide, we'll discuss about classification of hormones. Okay, there are three classes of, we can say, hormones. Among them, steroid is one. Okay, so steroids, they are usually not stored in their origin of the glands of the origin. Okay, means after they are synthesized, they will be released into the bloodstream. Okay, usually steroids. But other hormones, they can be stored in large quantities, okay, in which they are synthesized. For example, thyroxine hormones, it is synthesized in the thyroid gland. Okay, large amount of thyroxine, it can be stored in the thyroid gland. Okay, but the exception is that steroid hormones, this thing also we'll discuss, they are usually not stored in the glands of origin. Okay, so this is the second point. Third point, hormones do not have any cumulative action. Because they are destroyed and excreted as soon as their functions are over. Okay, cumulative action is not there. Okay, when they are functioning, doing their function. Okay, after that they will be destroyed and they will be excreted. Point number 4. Okay, some hormones, okay, they work quickly and they are also destroyed quickly. For example, epinephrine. Okay, epinephrine, norepinephrine. Actually, this epinephrine and norepinephrine also, we can call them as neurotransmitter also. But adrenal gland will also synthesize epinephrine and norepinephrine, and they will be released into the bloodstream, not into the synapse. That is why here we can call them as this epinephrine, they are hormones. Okay, in this case. Okay, so some hormones, they work quickly and destroy quickly. Point number 5. On the other hand, some work slowly and they are also destroyed slowly. That means good example is thyroxine hormone. Okay, now you see point number 4 and point number 5. There is a big difference. Okay, some hormones, they will work only for a few seconds and they will be destroyed. For example, epinephrine. But you see, thyroxine hormone, they work very slowly. It may take months together also to have their full effect. Okay, for thyroxine hormone. So there is a big gap between what to say, different types of hormones regarding their duration of action. Okay. Now point number 6, the process of release of hormones from the gland is called amniocytosis. Okay, this may be important for your exam. Okay, amniocytosis is the process of release of hormones from the gland. Okay, point number 7. So this point is very, very important. Okay, we are going to repeat again and again whenever we discuss about a particular hormone. Okay, afterwards. So this point is important. Hormones themselves control their secretion by means of feedback control. Okay, what does this mean? A feedback mechanism is a loop in which a product feeds back to control its own production. Okay, a product feeds back to control its own production. Okay. Most hormone feedback mechanisms involve negative feedback loops. Okay, from the diagram it will be clear. Okay, you please listen carefully. Okay, and you have to remember that most of the feedback mechanism in case of hormone, it is negative feedback mechanism. There is also positive feedback is also there, but it is very less. Okay, now see the first diagram. Okay, we have hypothalamus. Okay, which is located in the brain, you already know. For example, hypothalamus is releasing CRH, corticotropin releasing hormone. Okay, and what this CRH will do is that it will stimulate anterior pituitary gland to produce ACTH. ACTH, adrenocorticotropic hormone. And ACTH from pituitary gland, it will be released into the bloodstream, and it will reach the adrenal cortex. Okay, so ACTH will stimulate adrenal cortex, and what will happen is that then adrenal cortex will synthesize and release glucocorticoids, such as cortisol. Okay, now we can say that this glucocorticoids concentration is rising in the plasma now. Okay, when it is rising and reaching the upper limit, upper range or upper limit, what will happen is that glucocorticoids will start giving a negative feedback to the hypothalamus as well as to the pituitary gland. Okay, so increased level of glucocorticoids will have negative feedback on the pituitary gland as well as to the hypothalamus. What it does is that the first one is that it will suppress the hypothalamus to decrease secretion of CRH, or it will decrease the production of ACTH from the pituitary gland. Here, negative feedback. Okay, so because of that, ACTH release will be decreased. Decreased ACTH release means decreased glucocorticoids. So glucocorticoids level will start going down. Okay, but when it is reaching the lower limit, okay, when it is reaching the lower limit again, this negative feedback mechanism will be removed again, so that hypothalamus will start producing more CRH. More CRH means more ACTH. More ACTH means more glucocorticoids again. Then glucocorticoids level will rise again. Okay, and when it is reaching the upper limit again, the same thing, negative feedback mechanism will operate again. Okay, and then it will go down. Okay, but when it is reaching lower limit again, it will go up. So this is the range now. Okay, that is why we always see that when you have checkup, suppose your blood is you have given your blood estimation. Okay, so the printout or the result will always give what? A range. Okay, it will always give a range. It will not exactly give 2 milligram per 100 ml of blood. Okay, it is not like that. For example, 2 to 10 milligram per DL or per 100 ml of blood. Okay, that is why this is indicating the lower limit and this is indicating the upper limit. Okay, you got my point. So this glucocorticoids level, it will fluctuate like this. Okay, going down, coming up, going down, coming up like this. depending upon the requirement of that hormone. Okay. Any question regarding negative feedback mechanism? Is it clear? Everything is clear. Okay, so here now you see negative feedback keeps the concentration of a hormone within a narrow range. Okay, that means range will always be there. Okay, this is not only in case of hormones. Okay, it is for all the other molecules in our blood. Okay, so you already know what is the normal concentration of this molecule, sodium, potassium, all those in glucose. Okay, not only the hormones. Okay, now let's say the positive feedback. Okay, positive feedback mechanism, it is very less in case of in the body. Okay, around 2 mechanisms are there. Okay, okay, we'll do it afterwards. Okay, when we talk about this ovary and all. Okay. Negative feedback control basically means that when the hormones is in large supply, the glands stop making it. Okay, it's clear here. Negative feedback is there. When the level of hormone is low, the gland secretes the hormone until the level rises again. Okay. Now point number 8 regarding the characteristic of hormone.
Can you please repeat the diagram of negative feedback?
Negative feedback.
Diagram only.
Yeah, I'll explain again. You want?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you see the first diagram. Okay. So we have hypothalamus here, which is in the brain. Okay. So hypothalamus is synthesizing, you already know, 6 hormones. I've already given you the examples now when you talk about neuroendocrine system. Okay. CRH, GHRH, TRH, dopamine, somatostatin, and all. Okay. Suppose here we are having only one example here. CRH, corticotropin releasing hormone. Okay. Suppose hypothalamus has started releasing CRH. Okay. CRH is now released into the bloodstream and it has reached the anterior pituitary gland. Okay. What it does in the anterior pituitary gland is that it will stimulate corticotrope cells. Okay, all these things we'll discuss in this in detail. It will stimulate corticotrope cells to synthesize more ACTH, adrenal corticotropic hormone. Okay, now this ACTH production is now increased. That means this is a hormone, it will be released or secreted into the bloodstream. If it is reaching the bloodstream means now it can be transported to the adrenal cortex. So this ACTH, what it does in the adrenal cortex is that it will increase the production of glucocorticoids. Glucocorticoids, there are so many types are there. The most common one is cortisol. Okay. So glucocorticoids production is increased by the adrenal cortex. That means adrenal cortex, this is also a hormone. Hormone will be released now into the bloodstream. Okay, it will enter the bloodstream. Now glucocorticoids levels start increasing. Okay, now let's say it has reached its upper limit. Let's say this is the upper limit. Glucocorticoids level in the plasma has gone up to the maximal level, maximal range. Okay, so when this condition is happening, this high concentration of glucose will suppress the production of CRH from the hypothalamus and ACTH from the pituitary gland, so that the glucocorticoids level will also go down. Okay, so glucocorticoids, it will be utilized by some cells. Okay, ultimately it will go down. Okay. So this is negative feedback. Okay, this is negative feedback. The high concentration of glucose, that is its product only, product of these glands. Okay, it is suppressing its own production, so that the level will go down. And when it is reaching the lower limit, okay, lower limit, again, this negative feedback mechanism will also be inhibited. It will be removed. So hypothalamus will start secreting CRH again. Okay, more CRH, more means more ACTH, and more glucocorticoids again. Glucocorticoids level will go up again. And again, after reaching the upper limit, again, negative feedback mechanism will operate again. Okay, that is why within this range, okay, the hormone level, it will fluctuate. Okay, it will not go above the normal upper limit, or it will not go below the lower limit. Okay, so now this is a range. Okay, a range, let's say 2 to 5, like that. Let's say the lower limit is 2, the upper limit is 5. Okay, got my point now? The second diagram is the same thing, but here it is giving the positive feedback. Positive feedback though we will not discuss. Okay, now is it clear now?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Okay, I forgot to tell one point here. Okay, what you have to remember is that here negative feedback, the first negative feedback is on the hypothalamus. Okay, the first negative feedback is on the hypothalamus. That means low production of CRH will be there. Low production of CRH means low production of ACTH. It's clear. But here is also another direct effect. Okay, so this negative feedback is also having direct effect on pituitary gland itself. Okay, direct effect on pituitary gland means lesser ACTH production. Okay, so it can come from the hypothalamus because of low production of CRH, or it may come directly from the glucocorticoids, high level of glucocorticoids on the pituitary gland, so that ACTH production will be decreased. That means this and this. Okay, so the ultimate effect will be decreased production of ACTH. Okay, it will work together. It may be from the hypothalamus directly, or it may be from the glucocorticoids directly on the pituitary gland. Okay, or we can say that this is the indirect effect, and this is the indirect negative feedback mechanism, and this is the direct mechanism, like that we can call it. Okay. Point number 8, characteristic of hormone. The hormones are carried by circulatory system to cells throughout the body, including the nervous system, in some cases where they bind with receptors and affect many reactions. Okay, so this point is very important. Until and unless receptors are there in the target cell, a hormone could not have any influence on those cells. Okay, here this diagram, it is clear. Okay, suppose this is the endocrine cells. Okay, now it has synthesized the hormones and released into the bloodstream. Okay, and now the hormones, now they are transported in the bloodstream, and when it is reaching the target cell, they will be released first into the interstitial fluid, and they will bind to their target cells, which are bearing the receptors. Okay, so these are the receptors for this particular hormone, so that it can have influence on these target cells. If there are no receptors, there will be no influence, because hormone cannot bind to this cell if there are no receptors. Okay, so receptors are very important. Okay, point number 9. Some hormones affect most cells of the body. Most cells of the body. Okay, some hormones. Okay, for example, growth hormone causes growth in most parts of the body, and thyroxine increases the rate of many chemical reactions in almost all the body cells. Okay, so you see, some hormones affect most cells of the body. Example, growth hormone and thyroxine. Why this is happening? Because growth hormone and thyroxine have receptors in most cells of the body. Okay, don't think that only growth hormone and thyroxine are having this one. Some other hormones, they are also having generalized effect. That means they are affecting most cells of the body. Okay, so this is one group of the hormones. Again, we can classify here. These hormones, they are affecting most cells of the body. Why that is happening? because the last point you can see, they are having receptors. Okay, almost all the cells are having receptors for those hormones. Okay, now the opposite thing now we'll discuss. Okay, some hormones on the other hand affect only specific tissues. That what we call the target tissues, target cells. Okay, because only these tissues have receptors for a particular hormone. Okay, it is just opposite to the previous one. Okay, so some tissue. Okay, for example, this one, some hormones. Okay, they have receptors in specific tissues only, not in all the tissues. In some specific tissues only. That is why we call them those organ or tissue as the target tissue or organ. This one we have already discussed also. Okay, so wherever there is or there are receptors for a particular hormone, it means that that tissue is a target organ for that hormone. Okay, for example, adrenocorticotropic hormone (ACTH) again specifically stimulates adrenal cortex, causing it to secrete adrenocortical hormones, okay, such as glucocorticoids and mineralocorticoids. Okay, so previous slide, you remember that CRH, SCTH, glucocorticoids example diagram I have given you. Okay, why SCTH? SCTH, it is having its target organ is adrenal cortex. Why? Because only adrenal cortex is having receptors for SCTH. Clear or no? Other tissues they do not have. Okay. Second example, ovarian hormones. Hormones of the ovary. Okay. They have specific effects on the female sex organs. Okay, female sex organs, as well as on the secondary sexual characteristic of female body. Okay, ovarian hormones, we will discuss this thing also, progesterone, estrogen and all. Okay, they are specific for the female sex organ, development of female sex organ, as well as the secondary sexual characteristic. Okay, so another example in case of male is that we can give this one. Okay, there are so many examples. So we know that hormones of the testes. Okay, let's say testosterone. Testosterone, it is very important for what? Development of the sexual organs in case of male. And just like ovarian hormones, they are also causing secondary sexual characteristic of the male body. Okay, so in case of human being, we all know that at the time of adolescence, okay, there will be change in the voice, okay, or growth of the pubic hair. All those things, they are because of the sex hormones. Okay, that means they will not be having effect on your muscle, what to say, specifically they will be having effect on your, what to say, in the reproductive organs. Okay, point number 10, hormones work in very low concentration. Okay, you see 10 to the power minus 12 to 10 to the power minus 7 mole per liter. Okay, the concentration of hormone is very low, but that is sufficient to increase or decrease the biological reaction. Okay, very small amount is sufficient to have influence on target cells. Point number 11. Now, the multiple hormone systems of the body play a key role in regulating almost all body's function, including metabolism, growth and development, water and electrolyte balance, reproduction, behavior. Okay, now we can say that this multiple system of hormone systems, or we can say all those hormones, okay, they are playing a key role in regulating all these functions. That means we can say that hormones are affecting metabolism, that is catabolism, as well as anabolism, including all this behavior. Okay, so hormones are very important. Okay. So here you can see, for example, why they are controlling all these functions. I'm just giving here some few examples only. For example, without growth hormone, a persons become a dwarf. Okay, so I have given you here animals. Okay, so the first diagram you see a horse. We have here, we are having two horses. what is a dwarf. Okay, you see, there is lack of growth hormone during development. Okay, so the second horse, if you see, this is the normal one. Okay, so this is a dwarf. So in case of the second diagram you see here, this is a cattle. Okay, but here again, growth hormone problem is there. So this cattle or cow or I don't know this one, it becomes a dwarf. So we call it a dwarf. So even in human being also, we know very well about this one. Okay. So what about the thyroxine? Okay, thyroxine and triiodothyronine, these are the hormones produced by the thyroid gland. Almost all the chemical reactions of the body become sluggish. That means without thyroxine and triiodothyronine, okay, T4 and T3, we can call them, okay, chemical reaction inside our body, it will be very slow. And the person becomes sluggish as well. So normal level of this thyroid hormones, it is very important. Okay. Although I told you that hormones, they do not initiate biological reaction, but they can increase the biological reaction. And that is essential for the survival of the individual. Okay. So these are a few examples only. And another one, without insulin from the pancreas, the body cells can use little of food carbohydrates for energy. We all know very well what is diabetes mellitus. We call it a lifestyle disease also. Nowadays, it is a problem. Okay, it is a big problem in every country. Earlier, it was a problem for developed country only. Okay, but now even in developing country, underdeveloped country, this is a problem because maybe there is insensitivity to the action of insulin. Okay, so insulin is very important for the metabolism of glucose. Okay, otherwise blood glucose will go up. Increased blood glucose for a long period of time will have so many adverse effects in our body. So blood glucose level, it has to be controlled. Okay, so that is possible because of the action of insulin only. Okay. And again, without sex hormones, sexual development and sexual functions are absent. Okay, if there is abnormally low sex hormones, okay, a person sexual development will be hampered. Okay, so these are just few examples. Okay, so hormones, they are very, very important. Point number 12. What are the differences between hormone and enzyme? Okay, this will be important for your exam also. Point number 1, hormones are not always protein in nature, whereas enzymes are proteins always. Number 2, hormones are secreted into the bloodstream prior to use. Okay, this is there, not in case of the enzyme. And circulating levels can indicate the activity of endocrine glands and the exposure of the target organs. Means circulating levels of the hormones, it can indicate the activity of an endocrine gland, which is secreting the hormone. Okay, so we can judge what is the concentration of hormone in the blood. Okay, means how active is the endocrine gland for that particular hormone, which is secreting that particular hormone. So the third difference is they are produced in an organ other than that in which they finally affect the action. Okay, hormones, they are produced in an organ other than that in which they finally affect. Okay, it has to be affect. Okay, the action. So it means that hormones, you know that after they are synthesized, they do not have any function in that endocrine gland. They have to be excreted into the bloodstream. Okay, where they will be circulated and affect the target organ. But in case of enzyme, they are synthesized in the cell, and in the same cell itself, they will be utilized for biochemical reaction. Okay, so these are some of the characteristics of the hormones. Okay, now next. You want to take any break or not? Or should we continue? Huh? We'll take 2 minutes break. Huh? Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, we'll resume. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So
Cheese
the next
is
topic
a
is
vegetable slash milk product. Milk
next.
product.
MILK.
Hello,
Product.
can you hear me?
PRO. DUCT.
Something is wrong, or what? Someone is talking.
मिल्क अब चीज की हो सब्जी हो कि मिल्क प्रोडक्ट हो
Okay, so we resume. Okay. So the next topic is ways of hormonal effects on target organs, or we can say how hormone affects each target organ. Okay. Endocrine hormones affect their target organs in three main ways. Number one is temporarily. Okay, temporarily in emergencies. Okay, when emergency arises, the hormone will affect, or to say, its target organ temporarily. It is temporary. It is for a short period of time, we can say. Okay, for example, the hormone adrenaline, for instance, is released in response to sudden danger. Okay, so this one also, I think it was already discussed in Madam's class. Okay, that sympathetic nervous system activity has increased. Okay, fight or flight response, that one. Okay, when you feel that something is happening, what to say, dangerous thing is going to happen. Okay, there will be increased release of this adrenaline from the adrenal medulla or adrenal gland. Okay, so this will prepare your body. So this is a temporary condition. Okay, sudden fear, you have it. So this is just a temporary condition. It is an emergency condition. Okay, so in this condition, adrenal medulla will release epinephrine as well as norepinephrine. So here you see into the interstitial fluid and then into the bloodstream. Okay, so epinephrine will be released into the bloodstream. Okay, then what epinephrine will do is that it will provoke action that, point number one, increases blood sugar for fast energy. Okay, so this point is very important. Suppose you have a sudden fear, something dangerous thing is going to happen. Okay, some events. Okay, an event. Okay, which is a catastrophic for you. Okay, it is going to happen. So you realize that one. In that condition, epinephrine release will be increased. Okay, and when epinephrine release from the adrenal medulla is reaching the bloodstream, okay, it will prepare the body. Okay, and what will happen is that there will be increase in blood sugar for fast energy. So blood sugar from the storage organ, they will be mobilized into the bloodstream. So the blood concentration in your, the sugar concentration in your blood will be increased. We all know that sugar is a form of energy, or we can say when they are broken down, okay, that means they can be utilized as an energy for fast energy. Blood sugar concentration will increase. So the second point is that it will also heighten nerve responses, okay, for good reflexes. Okay, so the thing is that when you feel something is wrong or you are fearing something, okay, you'll be sluggish or your mental will be alert or it will be depressed. Just tell me, when you are having sudden fear, your mental alertness will increase or decrease? Anyone? Yeah, it will increase. Okay, so this is again the action of epinephrine. It will heighten your, nerve responses for good reflexes. So you're preparing your body yourself. That means you have to escape from that situation. The first one is that energy, increase energy. Maybe you have to run. For that, you need the sudden increase of energy. Okay. And another one is that your nerve responses to the situation will increase. Okay. So you'll be very, very alert. Okay. Point number 3 is that increases the blood supply to the brain. So it is suitably alert. So it is clear here that just like the second point. Okay. More blood flow to the brain means you can focus more. Means you can think it clearly. Okay. So I already told you that when you come for 2 o'clock or 1 o'clock class after having lunch, okay, your mental alertness used to be decreased because of the food you have taken. More blood will flow to the digestive tract. So your brain will be having low blood supply. Okay, so you'll be feeling sleepy also. But when you are having this problem, means you are having sudden fear, something is wrong. Okay, your blood supply to the brain will increase. So your mental alertness will be increased, and that will heighten the nerve responses to the situation also. Okay, point number 4, brings about a wide range of other reactions that help the body handle threatening situation quickly. Okay, so this is another reason. So what action you have to take also, okay? They will be there, okay? So that is the temporarily how hormone affects its target organ. So in case of emergency, and it is a temporary condition or maybe a short period of time also, okay? Now how hormones act again, the second way is long-term to assist in activities the body needs to perform. The body needs to perform all the time. That means long-term means we can say that throughout the life of an individual or the animal. Okay, there's some hormones, they will do their function. Okay, for instance, hormones from the thyroid gland are constantly helping stimulate metabolism. Okay, they will always do their work throughout the life of an individual. This is essential for the body to produce and uses energy for all its function. Okay, so this is another way of action of the hormone. It is a long-term, okay, long-term action. And the last one is short-term and long-term, okay, to assist in functions carried on in varying degrees. Okay, so the point of this one is that sometimes the prevailing condition in the body, okay, it may demand high concentration of that particular hormone, but sometimes it may demand only very low amount of that hormone. Okay, so prevailing condition in the body, that is important. Okay, for example, hormones from the glands in the reproductive system are always being produced to develop and maintain specifically male or female organs and characteristics. Okay, so we all know that these hormones from the reproductive system, they are important to maintain the, hormones from glands in the reproductive system, or maybe from the pituitary gland also. Okay, they are important to maintain male and female organs and characteristics. Okay, but you see, when the prevailing condition has changed, okay, for example, but during the period of puberty or adolescence, okay, the production of this hormone increases. Okay, for example, here the first diagram you see, there is increased production of GnRH from the hypothalamus, sudden increase of GnRH, okay, from the hypothalamus when a person is entering a puberty. Okay, then what will happen is that FSH and LH from the pituitary gland will also be increased. And FSH and LH, what they will do is that they will act on the Leydig cells of the testis here, Leydig cells of the testis, and it will lead to more production of testosterone, male sex hormone. Okay, it will increase. And I have already told you that what this testosterone can do. Okay, it will increase the growth of the reproductive organs. All those things, in case of male, changing the voice at the time of adolescence. Okay, growth of the pubic hair. All those things will be there. So the prevailing condition is now, it has changed as compared to the pre-puberty period or pre-adolescent period. Okay, so in that condition, okay, it will have this effect, okay, at the time of puberty or adolescence. Does the male body prepare itself for fatherhood and the female body for motherhood? So in case of female also, here you can see the second diagram, same thing, GnRH from the hypothalamus has been released, LH and FSH. What they do in the ovary is that they will increase the production of estrogen and progesterone. And estrogen and progesterone, okay, they are very important in causing what we say sexual characteristic. For example, we'll discuss in animals also, maybe already discussing LPM, okay, estrous cycle, okay. So the first stage of estrous cycle is the estrus, okay, exhibition of that sexual interest, okay. So hormones, they are very important. So this is a short, we can see the short term, but at the same time, it is a long term also. So it will maintain up to some extent, okay, this sexual activity throughout the life of an individual. But it will, sometimes the hormones, it will decrease in concentration because the demand is low. But sometimes it will increase again because the demand for that hormone is increased. Okay, so it is clear or not? These three ways of hormonal effects on the target organs: temporary, long-term, and short-term and long-term. Short-term and long-term in the sense that short-term means that adolescent period, the example I've given you, the prevailing condition. Okay. Now classification of hormones. So there are so many classifications of hormones, so we'll discuss only two types of classification of hormones. So the conventional classification of hormones. Okay, depend in case of especially physiology. Okay, in biochemistry it will be different again. Classification of hormones. Okay, there are three general classes of hormones. Now let's see the first one: peptide, polypeptide, or protein hormones. Okay, we can simply call this as the peptide hormones, polypeptide, or protein hormones. But most of the time it is called, this group of hormones, they are called as peptide hormones. Okay, so peptide, let's say peptide, as you know, this is what to say, it is composed of amino acids. Okay, it is said that the number of amino acids, when it is between 2 and 50, they are called as peptides. Okay, but when it is more than 50 amino acids, we can call that molecule as polypeptide. Okay, protein means it may contain one or more polypeptides. Okay, it may be many peptides, or even a single polypeptide may also be called a protein. Okay, so as you can see, peptide hormones are composed of amino acids. Okay, so this term, it is somewhat difficult, means will we use it? Sometimes we may call it peptide hormone, sometimes we may call hormone as polypeptide, or maybe protein also. Okay, don't get confused, but most of the time we'll call them peptide hormones. Okay, so now this group of hormones, okay, the first class of hormones, they are composed of amino acids. Okay, in general, polypeptide switch, 100 or more amino acids are called proteins. Again, here, this is the another what to say, way of saying the proteins. Okay, so in internet also you will find so many ways how this is proteins, how this is polypeptide, how this is peptide. Okay, there is no what to say, strict agreement between among these words. What we can just call it, peptide means short chain of amino acid, polypeptide means longer chain of amino acid, but protein means it may be polypeptides, okay, number of polypeptides, okay. Fewer than 100 amino acids are referred to as peptides or polypeptides. This thing under, okay, just Remember this one. Usually hormones made up of amino acids are referred to as peptide hormones. So as I told you, this class of hormone will simply address them as peptide hormones. Many peptides serve both neurotransmitter and hormones. Okay, when we call peptides, okay, here it is not peptide hormones. Okay, peptides means it is composed of amino acid. It may be neurotransmitter also, it may be hormones. If it is hormones, we call it peptide hormones. Okay. For example, most of the hormones secreted by the endocrine glands in the GI tract, for example, cholecystokinin, are also produced by the neurons in the brain where they function as the neurotransmitter. So here you just see that, just like what I've already told you, epinephrine, norepinephrine, no, they can be, what to say, neurotransmitter. But if adrenal gland is producing that one, it is released into the bloodstream. So they become hormones. Okay. So example here also, you see hormones of the hormone secreted by endocrine glands in the GI tract. Digestive tract will secrete a hormone known as cholecystokinin. That means it is hormones. Okay. But this same cholecystokinin, they are also produced by the brain. But they are not acting as the hormones, but they are acting as a neurotransmitter. That means from one neuron to the next neuron. Okay, not released into the bloodstream in case of brain. But in the GI tract, cholecystokinin, they are hormones. But in the brain, they are neurotransmitter. You got my point or not, this one? Already discussed, I think, in the previous slides. Okay. Next. Most of the hormones of the body are polypeptides and proteins. These hormones range in size from small peptides as few as 3 amino acids. Okay, that is TRH to proteins almost 200 amino acids long, growth hormone and prolactin. For example, TRH, it is very short. It is a very short peptide. It is having 3 amino acids only. But if you see growth hormone and prolactin, okay, there are so many hundreds of this one is the amino acids are there. Okay, so there is a big difference regarding their molecular weight also. So this group includes hormones from number 1, hypothalamus. Okay, peptide hormones include number 1, TRH, that the hormones from the hypothalamus. Okay, but not all. Okay, the first one is TRH, thyrotropin releasing hormone. It is a peptide hormone. Number 2, growth hormone releasing hormone or factor. Gonadotropin releasing hormone or factor. Corticotropin releasing hormone or factor. And somatostatin. Here, 5 hormones from the hypothalamus, they belong to peptide hormones. What is missing here then? The hormones released by the hypothalamus. One is missing here, which is not peptide hormone. Can you tell me? I've already given you in the previous. You remember or not? What was that? Huh? Dopamine. It is dopamine. Huh? Dopamine is produced by the hypothalamus, but it is not a peptide hormone. All other 5 hormones, they are peptide hormones. They are composed of amino acid. Okay? So these are the peptide hormones from the hypothalamus. What about anterior pituitary gland? Another endocrine gland. From anterior pituitary gland, SCTH, GH, TSH, FSH, MSH, LH, and prolactin. Okay? So these are all the, peptide hormones from the anterior pituitary gland. Okay? Then what about the posterior pituitary gland? You already know ADH, oxytocin. They are small peptides. Okay? They are also peptide hormones. What about pancreas? In the pancreas, insulin and glucagon, somatostatin. Somatostatin, you already know, this is also produced by hypothalamus, okay? But it is also produced by the pancreas, amylin, pancreatic polypeptide, okay? But the important ones, hormones, they are insulin and glucagon only, okay? We'll be discussing only insulin and glucagon in case of pancreas, okay? So these are all peptide hormones. What about parathyroid gland? Parathyroid gland, they are 4 in number. You know that they are attached to the thyroid gland only. So it is producing one hormone which is known as parathyroid hormone or PTH. This is also then a peptide hormone. Another peptide hormone from the thyroid gland is calcitonin. Okay. Just now I told you that thyroid glands, it is producing two thyroid hormones. They are thyroxine and triiodothyronine. They are very important, but they are not peptide hormones. Okay, only calcitonin is the peptide hormone from the thyroid gland. Okay, next, thymus. In the thymus, thymosin, thymolin, thymopectin are there. And from the GI tract. Okay, from here it is important. Okay, just here you see digestive tract is producing so many hormones, but digestive tract is never considered an endocrine gland. Okay, although it is producing so many hormones, but digestive tract is mainly for the digestion of the food. Its main function is to digest. That is why we call it digestive system. Okay, but cells of the digestive tract, okay, different types of the hormones. These are important for the digestion also. Okay. So another one, heart. So heart is an endocrine gland or no? We never consider heart as an endocrine gland, but still it is producing important hormone, atrial natriuretic factor or atrial natriuretic peptide, okay, which is released from the atrial muscle cells, okay, atrial muscle cells, okay, and they are important in controlling the pumping activity of the heart. Okay, this is a hormone. It is peptide again. We are all talking about peptide hormones only. Number 10, kidney also, it is never considered as an endocrine gland. Okay, so the main function of kidney we have already discussed, to produce urine, to remove waste material from the body. But still, kidney is also very important in producing a hormone known as erythropoietin. I think. Can anyone of you tell me what is the function of erythropoietin? Erythropoietin. Yeah, very good. Okay, I think it was discussed in the hematology class. Okay. Then liver also. Angiotensinogen also, we have already talked about this angiotensinogen when we talk about the excretory system. Okay, it is converted into angiotensin 1, angiotensin 2. Okay. It increases the reabsorption of the blood, sodium and all those things we discussed, and they are causing vasoconstriction of all these things, perinatrial, we have already discussed. Okay, liver is also never considered as an endocrine gland, but still it is producing a hormone, okay, which is having very important function. Okay, so fat, okay, fat is also, it is just a fat. We never say that fat or adipose tissue is an endocrine gland, but still they are producing the leptin, which is important for hunger. Okay, so these are the peptide hormones. Okay, so from here you see from GI tract till the end. Okay, all these organs or tissue we never they are never considered as an endocrine glands, but still they are producing hormones. Okay. Now, what is the synthesis of peptide hormones? Okay, this will be discussed in more detail in biochemistry class in the second year, but still we have to discuss it up to some extent. Okay, synthesis of peptide hormone. How peptide hormones or protein hormones are produced by the cell. Okay, so peptide hormones are synthesized on the ribosomes in the rough endoplasmic reticulum of different endocrine cells. Now let's see where is the rough endoplasmic reticulum. Okay, here you see this is rough endoplasmic reticulum. Okay, on the surface here you can see dot-like structure. Can you see or not these black dots which are attached to the surface of the reticulum? Can you see?
Yes, sir.
So
Yes,
these
sir.
are nothing but ribosomes. Okay, ribosomes, they are attached to the wall of or surface of, we can say, endoplasmic reticulum. And this endoplasmic reticulum and ribosome, they work together to produce the protein. Okay, here we are talking about the peptide hormones, means protein hormones. But not only the hormones, but also other proteins or peptides, which are not hormone. They are also synthesized in the ribosomes of rough endoplasmic reticulum only. Okay. So their synthesis is in the same fashion as most other protein synthesis. Okay. They are usually synthesized first as larger proteins. Okay, larger proteins that are not biologically active. Okay. Initially, when ribosome is synthesizing a particular protein, okay, which is going to be a hormone, it is usually very big. Okay, it is very big, and they are not biologically active also, and these are known as pre-pro hormone. It is not yet a hormone; it is a pre-pro hormone. It is biologically inactive. Okay, they cannot do any function. Okay, then these pre-pro hormones are then cleaved or broken to form smaller molecule called the prohormones. So pre-pro hormone becomes prohormone. Okay, and then here you see here this diagram inside the ribosomes up to prohormone. It becomes up to prohormones. Okay, pre-pro hormones, initially it is synthesized like that, and then prohormone. Okay, this prohormone then from the endoplasmic reticulum vesicle will be pinched off, which will contain this synthesized prohormone. Okay, and it will pass into the Golgi apparatus. Okay, it will be transferred into the Golgi apparatus. Okay, for packaging into secretory vesicles. Then what will happen is that here, inside the Golgi apparatus, you see enzyme in the vesicles cleave the prohormones to produce smaller biologically and active hormones and inactive fragments. Okay, that prohormone, okay, will be again broken into now active hormones and inactive fragments. Okay, and now this will be stored in this vesicle. Okay, secretory vesicles, until their secretion is needed. So here the second diagram you just see. Okay, here we are having example of parathyroid hormone. Okay, released from the PTH. So the first one is that, okay, all this thing, transcription, translation, and all, it will be discussed in what to say, biochemistry class. Okay, not in physiology class. So the first protein produced is pre-pro hormone. I told you that usually it is very big. Okay, so its residues is 115 amino acids. Okay, 115 amino acids are there. Okay, so this is the pre-pro hormone. It is quite long. Okay, it is long. 115 amino acids are there. Okay, but you know that in the reticulum itself, this will be broken into prohormone, pro-parathyroid hormones. Now it is smaller. Okay, the inactive part is reduced from 115, it becomes 90 amino acids only. Okay, then in the second secretory granules, okay, enzyme will break again this prohormone into active hormone. Now this is PTH now. Okay, it is containing only now 84 residues. Okay, from prohormone, pro-PTH, again 6 amino acid has been removed. Okay, now let's say this is the active hormone now. This is the PTH. Okay, so all this process, it will be discussed in more detail in biochemistry class. Okay, is it clear about how hormone is produced? Oh, okay, so the DNA part here in the first diagram, you see here transcription is taking place here. All these things it will be discussed because it is involving genes. So we're not concerning about this one. I just want to know you that in brief or superficially how protein synthesis takes place. Okay. Now, the secretion of hormones as well as the inactive fragments occurs when the secretory vesicles fuse with the cell membrane. So it is clear that you already know what is exocytosis. So when there is signal to release the hormones, okay, again, same thing will happen. Sodium, calcium will enter, okay, to the inside of the cell. You already know. So increased calcium concentration here, you already know, will pull the secretory vesicle to fuse with the cell membrane. And by the process of exocytosis, hormone will be released into the interstitial fluid. Okay, and from interstitial fluid, it will enter the bloodstream so that they can be transported to different parts of the body. Okay, all these things we have already discussed, how calcium is causing the fusion of the secretory vesicle with the cell membrane. Okay. Here you see, in many cases, the stimulus for exocytosis is an increased cytosolic calcium concentration. So I already told you this one. There will be increased entry of the, calcium to the inside of the cell, so that it will cause depolarization, or it will pull the secretory vesicle to be fused with the cell membrane. Okay. In other instances, stimulation of endocrine cell surface receptor causes increased cytosolic monophosphate, that means cyclic adenosine monophosphate, cyclic AMP, subsequently activation of protein kinase that initiate secretion of the hormone. So another possibility is that some by here, for example, here surface receptor is here. Okay, one molecule binds here. Okay, it will stimulate the internal, reaction system, like increasing the production of cyclic AMP. Here you can see cyclic AMP production will be increased, and this will activate the protein kinase. Okay, it will be clearer when we talk about mechanism of hormone action. Okay, and that will may lead to secretion also. So we have two possibility. One is that increased calcium concentration inside the cell, which will pull the vesicle to move towards the cell membrane and fuse with them and release the hormone by the process of exocytosis. Okay, the second one is that stimulation takes place by surface receptor binding, which will increase production of cyclic AMP. Increased cyclic AMP means more activation of protein kinase. Okay, protein kinase then stimulate the secretion of the hormone. Okay, so we have to remember that this point is very, very important. The peptide hormones are water soluble. Peptide hormones are water soluble. That is why their their transport inside the blood, okay, it is easier. Means they will not bind to the binding proteins are there. Okay, for other types of protein, hormones. Okay, but peptide hormones, they can be in the free form inside the bloodstream, not in the bound form, because they are water soluble. We all know that plasma is having 91 to 92% water. Okay, this allows them to enter the circulatory system easily and be carried to their target tissues because they are water soluble. So remember that peptide hormones, they are water soluble. Okay, not fat soluble. They are water soluble hormones. Now we have finished the first class of hormones. That is the peptide hormones. The second one is steroid hormones. Okay, steroid hormones are produced by steroidogenic tissues, or we can say, but steroidogenic tissues such as number one, adrenal cortex, gonads, testes and ovaries, and placenta during pregnancy. Okay, placenta, we know it is present only in which sex of animal? Placenta. Can any one of you tell me? Placenta will be present in which animal? Male or female? Okay, so during pregnancy, placenta is there. So we can call placenta is a temporary endocrine gland also. Okay, why it is a temporary endocrine gland? After delivery or birth of the offspring, okay, it will be removed. Okay, temporary, it is a temporary organ. So these organs, okay, other tissues are also producing these hormones, but the main ones are the which synthesize and release steroid hormones are adrenal cortex, gonads, and placenta. Okay, now What are the hormones produced by the adrenal cortex? Number one, glucocorticoids. Glucocorticoids is a group of hormones. Okay. Adrenal cortex produces glucocorticoids such as cortisol, corticosterone, and cortisol. And another group is mineralocorticoids such as aldosterone. Aldosterone also we have already discussed. When we talk about that, you already know in excretory system, it's very important. Okay, mineralocorticoids. So these two groups of hormones are produced by the adrenal cortex, and they are steroid hormones. Okay, not peptide hormones. What about the ovaries? Okay, gonads. Here the gonads come. Gonads includes testes and ovary. Okay, ovaries produce estrogen and progesterone. Testes produce testosterone. And what about the placenta? Placenta is also producing estrogen and progesterone. Okay, so these are all the steroid hormones produced by steroidogenic tissues. And the endocrine glands involved are adrenal cortex, ovaries, testes, and placenta. Okay, so how these are synthesized? Again, briefly we'll discuss it. Okay. So steroid hormones are synthesized in smooth endoplasmic reticulum and mitochondria. Okay. So earlier, peptide hormones is synthesized in which organelle? Peptide hormone. Please tell me what is the site of synthesis of peptide hormone in a cell? Can you tell me? Rough endoplasmic reticulum. So steroid hormones, they are synthesized in smooth endoplasmic reticulum as well as mitochondria. Okay, so they are usually synthesized from stepwise conversion of cholesterol. So we can say and are not stored. Okay, so steroid hormones, I already told you that they are usually not stored in the glands of origin. Okay. Original glands, they are not synthesized, stored. That I've already told you when we talk about characteristic of hormones. Okay, so we can say cholesterol is the precursor of all the steroid hormones. Okay, so the rate of, and they are not stored so the rate of secretion is directly proportional to the rate of synthesis. Rate of secretion is directly proportional to the rate of synthesis because whenever they are synthesized, they will be secreted and utilized since they are not stored in the gland. Okay, the cells producing these hormones synthesize some of their own cholesterol. Okay, that means, for example, here, example I've given you, here the cell itself may synthesize cholesterol. Okay, from this cholesterol, all those steroid hormones will be produced. Okay, but most of them is provided to them from the plasma by specific uptake mechanism. That means this cholesterol, they will diffuse from the blood into the interstitium and then into the cell. Okay, cholesterol, most of them, they will be, diffused from the blood into the interstitium and then into the cell. Although the cell itself may produce some amount of cholesterol, but that is less. So diffusion from the plasma is required, okay, to synthesize the steroid hormones. Although there is usually very little hormone storage in steroid-producing endocrine cells, a large store of cholesterol ester in cytoplasm vacuoles can be rapidly mobilized for steroid synthesis after a stimulus. Okay, so cholesterol esters, okay, they are present in the vacuoles of the cytoplasm. So those may be mobilized for synthesis of steroid hormones when stimulus comes. Okay, so this is the stepwise conversion production of the steroid hormones. This is just an example in case of adrenal gland. Okay, this is just an example in case of adrenal gland. Okay, so you just see zona glomerulosa is one type of cell in the adrenal cortex, zona fasciculata is another type of cells, and reticularis is another type of cells. So you just see here the precursor, the initial stage of the production of steroid hormone starts with all the cholesterol. Okay, now cholesterol will be converted into pregnenolone. Okay, for example, inside the mitochondria. And in the pregnenolone, in the plasma reticulum, it will be converted into progesterone. Okay, progesterone inside the endoplasmic reticulum will become this 11-deoxycorticosterone. Okay, and again, inside mitochondria, this will be converted into corticosterone. And again, inside mitochondria, this will be 18-OH corticosterone. And again, ultimately, inside the mitochondria, aldosterone will produce. So in this step, we can see two important hormones are produced, progesterone and aldosterone in general glomerular. Okay, what about the fasciculata? Inside the fasciculata, same thing, cholesterol is converted into pregnenolone. Okay, in this cell, one will become here again, pregnenolone is converted into again, here progesterone we have seen. So this part is producing again, the ultimate effect production is cortisol. Okay, here progesterone, here corticosterone. So this highlighted in green color. Okay, these are important hormones. Again, reticular is also here, production is there. Okay. So this is just one example in the adrenal cortex. Okay. So the chemical structure of steroid hormone is similar to cholesterol. The many biological steps in steroid synthesis beyond cholesterol involve small changes in the molecule and are mediated by specific enzymes. That means this one there are at every step there is slight change in the chemical structure. Okay, that is making them different. Okay. The steroid hormones produced by a particular cell depend therefore, okay, on the types of the enzyme. Okay, what types of enzyme is there to produce that particular hormone or concentration of the enzyme also. Okay, you have already seen 3 steps I have given you. Okay. So because steroids are highly lipid soluble, now this point is again very important. Steroids, they are, lipid in nature also we can say. So they are lipid soluble, not water soluble. Okay, peptide hormones, they are soluble in what medium? Peptide hormones. Is there peptide hormones? They are soluble in
Water.
which medium?
Water soluble.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. They are water soluble hormones. Okay. On the other hand, steroids, they are lipid soluble, not water soluble. So this point, just remember, it is very, very important. Okay, they are lipid soluble. Okay. Now, how they are released and synthesized? Okay, once they are synthesized, they simply diffuse across the plasma membrane of the steroid-producing cell. Okay. Now, let us see the first diagram. Okay, this is an endocrine cell. Okay, so this steroid hormone is synthesized here. Okay, so when they are needed, they have to be released. Okay, now it is coming out of the cell. Okay, since it is lipid soluble, the penetration of this steroid hormone through the cell, well, it is very easy because it is lipid bilayer, and this hormone, steroid hormone, is soluble in this lipid bilayer. So it will simply pass or diffuse into the interstitium easily. And then when it is passing through the, then it will pass into the, capillaries also. Okay, it will pass easily into the capillaries. Okay, here also it is lipid soluble. Okay, because capillaries, it is, it is lined by endothelium only. Okay, endothelium, lipid bilayer. Okay, now it is now entering the bloodstream. Now they are transported. Now here you see, we'll discuss afterwards also, this is very important because plasma is containing water, not lipid. Okay, it is not a fat solution. Let's say it is not a fat solution, it is water solution. That is why this steroid hormone, they will mainly bind to their, binding protein. Okay, most of them, more than 99%, they will bind to their carrier protein or binding protein. Here you see. Okay, free steroid hormone will be less than 1% in the blood. Okay, because they are not soluble in water. So their solubility in plasma is very low. That is why more than 99% will bind to the carrier proteins only. Okay? And then what will happen is that now they will be transported by this, most of them by their carrier protein. Okay? Now they are transported to different parts of the body. Okay? When they reach their target organs. Okay? Now the second diagram you see. Okay? When they reach their target organ, they will be detached from the protein molecule and pass through the capillaries again. First enter interstitium, and then it will pass through the cell membrane of the target cell also. Here, because it is lipid soluble, so diffusion from the capillaries into the interstitium and from interstitium into the cell, it is not a difficult thing. Okay, means since they are lipid soluble, their diffusion is very easy. Okay, so that they can bind to their receptors inside the target cell. All these things will be discussed in more detail. Okay. Then under the up to this one, I have written here, but at the peripheral level also the same thing takes place. It will escape out of the capillary by detaching itself from the carrier protein. Okay. Now the last group of hormone is amino acid derived hormone. Can you hear me or not?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now the last one. Okay, hormones that are modified amino acid. Okay, this group comprises hormones formed from the amino acid tyrosine. Okay, tyrosine is the amino acid present here, but it is not totally amino acid. Okay, so these hormones are secreted by number one, thyroid gland. Okay. This thyroid glands, it is producing the thyroid hormones such as thyroxine, which is also known as T4, and triiodothyronine, which is also known as T3. Now, what is the peptide hormone secreted by thyroid gland? Can you tell me? What is the peptide hormone secreted by thyroid gland? Remember or not? Huh? No, thyroxine, so yeah, as amino acid. Huh? Calcitonin. Okay, calcitonin. Okay, it is peptide hormones produced by the thyroid gland that we have discussed in the first group. Okay, but this thyroxine hormone and triiodothyronine, they are more important than calcitonin. Okay, that you should remember. Another amino acid derived hormones is also produced by adrenal medulla. Okay, they are producing epinephrine and norepinephrine. So these are collectively known as catecholamines also. Okay, so in the previous group, steroid hormones, we talk about adrenal cortex. Adrenal cortex, they are producing so many hormones, mineralocorticoids and glucocorticoids, such as glucocortisol, aldosterone. Those things we have discussed. Okay, those are the steroid hormones. Then the adrenal part of the medullary part of adrenal gland, they're also producing amino acid derived hormones. They are epinephrine and norepinephrine. That example also I've already given you. Okay, that fight or flight response one. Okay, so again, hypothalamus is also producing one hormone, which is amino acid derived, that is the dopamine. Okay, that I told you that the first five, okay, of the hypothalamic hormones, they are peptide hormones. But what to say, the sixth one is a amino acid derived hormone, that is dopamine. And another hormone which is produced by the pineal gland is the melatonin. Pineal gland, where is it? What is the location of this pineal gland? Where can we find the pineal gland? It is in the liver, kidney, heart. It is in the brain. Okay. So these are the amino acid derived hormones. Okay. Tyrosine is there. Okay. But some others, what to say, chemical structure means components are there. Okay, they are different from the steroid hormones, and they are different from the peptide hormones also. But the similarity between, okay, I will see afterwards. Okay, let's see first the synthesis of amino acid derived hormones. Okay, how these hormones are synthesized. So it is a complex one. That means we cannot generalize it. Okay, we cannot generalize it. When we discuss one by one those hormones, it will be clearer. But I'll give you here this thing. These hormones are formed by the actions of enzymes in the cytoplasm of the glandular cells. Okay. For example, let's see the thyroid hormones. They are synthesized in the thyroid gland. Okay, and incorporated into macromolecules of the protein that is known as thyroglobulin. After the thyroid hormones are synthesized, they will bind to the thyroglobulin. Okay. Okay, it will be clearer when we discuss the thyroid gland. Secretion occurs when amines are split. All these things. Okay, just forget. The free hormones are then released into the bloodstream, and after entering the blood, most of the thyroid hormones combines with the plasma protein. Again, okay, this one you just forget it because when we talk about thyroid glands, it will be clearer. Okay, the last point. After entering the blood, after they are secreted, most of the thyroid hormone combines with plasma protein, just like the steroid hormones. They are also water insoluble. So in the plasma, mainly, okay, they will bind to the plasma proteins for their transportation. Okay, so this is the similarity between steroid hormone and amino acid derived hormones. Okay. Especially with thyroxine binding globulin, which slowly releases the hormones to the target tissue. All these things will be discussed in more detail when we talk about the thyroid gland. Okay. So what about the synthesis of those catecholamines, epinephrine and norepinephrine, which are released from the adrenal medulla? Okay. We have almost finished. Okay. They are formed in the adrenal medulla, you already know, secretes about 4 times more epinephrine than norepinephrine. Okay, norepinephrine is secreted, okay, as compared to norepinephrine. They are taken up into preformed vesicles and stored until secreted, and just like the protein hormones, okay, they are also released by the process of exocytosis. All these things we have already discussed. Once the catecholamines enters the circulation, they can exist in the free form or in conjugation with other substances. Okay, some of them they will be in the free form, just like the protein hormones. Some of them they will bind to their carrier molecules. Okay, so again, one more classification. That was the conventional classification of hormones: peptide hormones, steroid hormones, and amino acid derived hormones. Okay, now let's see this is somewhat biochemical classification. Okay. Hormone classification on the basis of their chemical structure. We'll go fast now, this one. Number 1, amines or amino acid derivatives. Okay. So these simple hormones are structural variations of the amino acid tyrosine, just like we have discussed the last part. Okay. The previous classification, the third one. Okay. They contain atoms of carbon, nitrogen, and nitrogen characterized by an amine group. Okay. Examples are epinephrine, norepinephrine, thyroxine, triiodothyronine, okay, dopamine, and melatonin. Okay. So the second group is polypeptides. So according to the length of the amino acid, okay, composed of long chains of amino acid. Example, okay, ACTH, calcitonin, cholecystokinin, gastrin, glucagon, human growth hormone, HCG, etc. Okay. And another one is glycoproteins. Glycoproteins consist of large proteins combined with carbohydrate. Example are FSH, HCG, LH, and TSH. Actually, this one, when we talk about the first classification, that peptide hormones, I have included these hormones like FSH and LH. Okay, because they are also composed of amino acid, but carbohydrate part is also there. Carbohydrate part is also there. Okay, so in this classification, it comes under glycoprotein. That means carbohydrate part is there and protein part. Next one is the steroid hormone. A steroid hormone consists of lipid synthesized from cholesterol. You already know this one. Icosanoids, these are local hormones. Actually, sometimes, most of the time, this will not be included. It will not come under hormones. But some people, they have included it. Then they are known as the local hormones. They are lipids that are synthesized from the fatty acid chains of phospholipid found in the plasma membrane. It consists of long hydrocarbon acid chain. Example, prostaglandins, leukotrienes, and thromboxane. Okay, among them, prostaglandin is very important. This is very important in case of reproduction. Okay, so these are the second type of classification of the hormones. Okay, this for today. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
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 Next, sir.
क्लास खत्म किया